Assassin's Creed 1, the original, the very first game in the franchise that spawns more sequels than there are Oreo flavors. It's the game that gave us mechanics like hidden blades, counter kills which allowed you to take out groups of enemies without too much hassle, climbing various towers and essentially any building you can find, leaping from towers to land in a bunch of hay, using these very same towers to unlock more of the map, which is a feature that even games up to today use. For example, in the Horizon Zero Dawn, instead of climbing actual towers, you had to climb massive giant robots, tall necks they call them. Assassin's Creed 1 is also the first game where we started getting glimpses of something deeper going on. It's not just a historically based Assassin's game. It has actual depth and meaning behind it. There's secrets to be uncovered, people that lived before us, their technology, which can be considered magic. So many things going on, and then when you compare it to the games that we have today, to the Assassin's Creed games of the last 6 or 7 years, for example, Valhalla, Origins, Odyssey, and even the upcoming Shadows, all these games, they feel like they're generic RPGs. If you didn't have the Assassin's Creed name slapped on the box, I wouldn't even know that they're Assassin's Creed games. They feel generic, they feel like they lost what truly made Assassin's Creed. Just think about the first games like Assassin's Creed 2. That game, even up to today, is one of my favorites ever. You started off seeing yourself as a baby and then you grew up across 3 different games to becoming a master assassin that people across the land saw as a true hero, as someone to look up to. You continuously unlocked new secrets and new elements of the game, but now it just feels like someone's copying another game developer and the next developer is copying the other developer in a struggle to see what sells the most copies, instead of focusing on what the game is truly about. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to really figure out what was the thing or things that made the original games good. Was it the combat, was it the story, or was there something else behind everything? Seeing how Ubisoft is crumbling, shareholders jumping ship, people boycotting their newest games, developers consistently struggling. This is exactly why I played through the entire game after nearly 20 years. I played the game and now I will share what in my opinion truly made the original Assassin's Creed good. Now let's begin. Let's start the game, and more specifically, let's start the game with an entry cinematic, one that I'm sure a lot of you will feel quite nostalgic about. And right after the cinematic, we're hit with a blindingly white light, a sign that we're in a training area, a virtual reality world where I can basically test out all the mechanics, like the hidden blade, blending in with crowds, maneuvering around a bunch of enemies, figuring out other details. This is a great area for beginners to get a feel of the game, or even remember how to play the game if you haven't really done it in a few years. I'm surprised how a game that came out in 2007 has so many various mechanics, how it has such realistic graphics. I mean, even today, This doesn't look too bad. Sure, it's not the latest and greatest, but it still looks nice. The cloth mechanic also looks great. Back in 2007, if you had a computer that could run this, you were rich. If you could run this on Macs, you were rich. And it should have looked incredible. This is why I'm so surprised how the developers managed to cram so much into a game that doesn't really even take up that much space, considering the games these days can go up to 100 gigabytes. And yes, I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. This is also where I learned about the true purpose of the creed. It's basically made out of 3 tenets. Stay your blade from the flesh of an innocent, which essentially means do not kill an innocent person, hide in plain sight, and never compromise the brotherhood. This is actually quite funny, because growing up as a kid, I didn't have a computer for quite a long time, and English was never my native tongue. I learned it all quite a bit later in my life. The first time I heard about the Assassin's Creed game, I didn't see it on YouTube. YouTube wasn't really a thing back then, and definitely not something I had access to, considering that I had a PC only when I was about 10 or 12 years old. The first time I saw the game, it was like a demo playthrough of the game, and it was shown on TV. There was a channel that was reviewing video games. What a time, right? And it never had the name Assassin's Creed written anywhere. All I remember was them saying Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed. Every time they said that, I knew of the word greed. I never heard the word creed before. So growing up for quite a long time, I thought the game was called Assassin's Greed rather than Creed, which has a bit of a different tone if you think about it. After getting through the basic tutorial areas, I'm starting to get annoyed. And not at the game itself, but at a very annoying stuttering issue. From time to time, every about 30 or 40 seconds, the game stops, freezes in place, and then restarts. No changes, no differences, but it can be seen in camera right here. At first I thought this was a compatibility issue, but turns out it was not. Nothing I did could fix it, so I had to go to Reddit. And it turns out that a lot of people have this issue. It's not about compatibility between the game and newer hardware, it's Ubisoft, and more specifically Ubisoft servers. You see, to access the game, you must connect to Ubisoft servers for the game to run. But when you access it, the server kind of, well, screws you and has the stuttering issue. There are multiple ways to avoid this. Thankfully, I had the easy one out. All I had to do was disable my Wi-Fi the moment when the game launched, and that seemed to fix the issue for me. Others, let's just say they had different things to do. Even turning off the Wi-Fi didn't help, and they would need to go into the registry to make a lot of edits to make the game work. I'm very happy I wasn't one of those unlucky few that had to get through that, as I was already thinking that maybe playing this game and recording it is not such a good idea. Anyways, back to the game. Right, and now since the scene is over, we finally meet our main character, Altair, and his friends, of whom the names are not really important. To be fair, I never really learned them anyway. In short, we're in this very damp and weird cave, looking for a very secret treasure that our master sent us out to find. The problem is, Templars, the main enemies of the assassins, are also here, and they're quite a bit ahead of us. Now remember when I said we meet our main character Altair? Yeah, well, he's a bit of a prick. A prick with a superiority complex. Why? Well, that's simply because in the first minutes that we see him, he immediately forgets his creed and just kills an innocent person. The other 2 assassins are of course pissed, but since Altair is a superior rank, they can't really do anything else about it, so they move on. And now we jump into the game, and we're finally able to move around, run around the cave a bit, make our first assassination, and then find the treasure that we were looking for. Problem is, the Templars already have it. The other 2 assassins clearly want to do it the correct way, use their assassin skills, and Altair just climbs down the ladder and says hello. Another part of the creed completely tarnished. This of course does not go well, and the Templars immediately get the upper hand. Altair is kicked right into the next room, while his friends inevitably die. Not only do they die, the Altair does not get the treasure either, forcing him to return to Masyaf, which is the main fortress of the Assassin Order, and basically the hub for the game. The next scene ends and we show up in the Assassin town. At the very top we can see a giant castle. It's the main fortress that I mentioned previously, called Masyaf. We're greeted by another member of the Assassin Order, but we shun him away and move on to get to the Master. We walk around through the town, admire just how many people actually are there being rendered and how far the render distance is. The place is honestly incredible, and for a game made in 2007, I'm shocked at how well everything runs. Even up to these days, the game looks fucking gorgeous. Anyways, now we meet our master and unfortunately tell him that the mission was a complete failure. Our friends died and the treasure was never recovered.
Apologies and excuses.
I did.
Do not speak. Not another word. We got a bit of a beatdown for failing him so badly, but here's a twist. One of his friends actually survived. He shows up all bloody without one arm. Apparently he survived the battle. And not only did he survive the battle, he brought the treasure here, exposing Altair for what he did and for screwing over the Creed.
We are under attack. Robert de Sable lays siege to Masyaf's village.
Now, before any real judgment can be done, the Templars follow their little assassin friend to Masyaf and are about to take siege, so we must go out and fix this problem. A problem caused by Altair's stupidity, indifference to the Creed, and his ego. This will come back to bite him. Now, this is where we learn about the climbing mechanic. We have a chance to roam around a little bit, climb a nearby tower, and then do a bit of a show for our audience, that being the Templars. Essentially, we're going to jump off a giant tower and pretend that we're dying. A way to basically display a show of power and the fact that we are fearless and do not fear death. However, this is of course a trick. 3 assassins jump off the cliff and land on a pile of hay. A well-known trick in the assassin games and a thing that spawned millions of various memes.
Go to God!
Moving forward, we head to a nearby location and release a true medieval tactic, a bunch of logs that fall and crush our enemies. It's nice to see a bit of actual historic accuracy in the game, as such tactics of defending a fortress have been used throughout the ages. Some dropped rocks, others logs. At some points we even had people dropping hot pitch and then lighting it on fire, basically anything to keep the enemy away. Now with the enemies all beaten and routing away, we finally got our own punishment. We're stripped of all titles and turned back into a novice. Altair of course is absolutely furious, but has nothing else to say but to accept his fate. Master Al-Mualim gives us a task to kill 9 specific people in 3 different cities. Each kill will grant us a bit more knowledge and raise our rank once more. We ride out across our little town, collect a few random flags, which from my understanding are simply added collectibles, which inevitably have very little meaning for the main game. At the entrance to the town we find some horses, and to my surprise we can actually ride them. We use these to ride across the kingdom, which is essentially a gateway area with branching paths that lead into the different towns. Once you arrive at one of the cities, you are first greeted with a beautiful vista for each city. Once in the city, you must find the assassin headquarters to get your first basic details of the assassination. Now, each one of these headquarters has one guy maintaining it, basically an assassin informer. These guys don't really like us. They know what we did previously and why we were stripped of all titles. Although they're not very keen to help, they give us basic information and send us out to gather more. Altair is not very happy about this and just demands to get the information. However, his demands are not listened to, essentially. He is reminded that he is a novice. His titles are stripped, and he must gather the information himself to show that he can actually do it. Now, the information gathering is basically split into 2 or 3 different mission types. One of these is interrogation, where we essentially locate a specific person, wait until they move into a shady alley, and then beat the crap out of them to get some information. The next type of mission is eavesdropping. We usually find a bench to sit, use our eagle vision, and just wait for the information to flow in. And the third type of mission is pickpocketing. Essentially, we have to go to a very public area, such as a market for example, find a specific target, and then use any ways that we can to steal some information from their pockets. Sometimes this mission got very annoying, as you would consistently get caught or get bumped into random pedestrians. Now, this all seems quite good and well, however, it gets extremely repetitive. Why? Well, because this gets repeated in every single city for every single point in the game. You kill one person, you head to the next city, you do these exact same missions again, you get more information, rinse and repeat, with basically no variation. This sort of repetitive gameplay, in today's standards, is absolutely terrible. Back in the day, I suppose this was perfectly fine, especially for a launch title. However, this does kind of make the game a lot more boring, because you always know what's gonna happen and there's just nothing new to be shown. Now, moving on from that, this does have some added spice to it. For example, you have a minimum of 2 investigations to do. Once you get these, you are fully free to head back to the assassin headquarters, report what you find, and then go for the assassination. But keep in mind that if you only get the bare minimum, the assassin headquarters manager will be pissed because you didn't get all the information you could.
Very well, here's what I know. He traffics in human lives, kidnapping Jerusalem citizens and selling them into slavery. His base is a warehouse located inside the Barbican, north of here. As we speak, he prepares a caravan for travel. I'll strike while he's inspecting his stock. If I can avoid his men, Talal himself should prove little challenge.
Little challenge? Listen to you. Such arrogance.
Are we finished? Are you satisfied with what I've learned?
No.
The added information usually unlocks various new paths for the assassination. You get more information about what's going on, such as time of day when this person is unguarded, or when they are going through a very convenient area for an assassination to take place. If you don't get all this information, you will encounter more challenges. And also, if you get all 5 bits of information, the managers of the assassin headquarters will also be a lot more happy with you, sparking new conversation options to kind of show up. Now, this is a point where I must mention that the game is not entirely based in the ancient past. It's actually a virtual simulation crafted by human technology. This is where a person named Desmond Miles comes into the picture. He's the actual main character of the game, and the person through whose memories we will be accessing the ancient world where Altair lives. The main premise of the story is that Desmond Miles has been captured by a company named Abstergo, and they're using him as a means to get information from the past and find a specific piece of technology which they have no idea where is at. Because Desmond is an assassin himself, he has generational knowledge and memories locked in his DNA of the past actions of his predecessors. So let's say his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather Altair, if that makes any sense. Throughout the game, you will be kicked out of the virtual world as a means to progress the story, and essentially serves as a plot B. This unlocks more secrets, you get more ideas of what's going on, and you actually learn that Desmond is a former assassin. In many cases, people say that this actually distracts from the main game, but in my opinion, it's a very good and well-crafted way to progress the story and add more world building into this, rather than just be another medieval video game. Later, we're also going to learn that Abstergo, the company that kidnapped us, is basically the modern-day version of the Templar Order. The fight that Altair and the Templars started all those years ago is still ongoing, and it's still going on up to today, except that the Templars are basically in control of everything. We also learned that all the high-end technology of this world is basically stuff that's being derived from ancient technology of the ones that came before us, the ones that are being mentioned so many times throughout the game. Jumping back into the Animus, and we are setting off on our next assassination. This time, it's a brutal man, one who, in the middle of the market during the daytime, brutally kills another person, one of his workers, and does not allow his body to get moved away as a show of dominance and his basic brutality. With that in mind, we go ahead and take the kill. And this is where we get our first riddle. At first these seem random, but with each kill, more and more details are being revealed. That there's a bigger story going on, and more than Al-Mualim, our master, is letting on. At first, Altair is not really concerned and just continues as he would, not asking questions. But further and further ahead in the game, more and more questions come up, and he's actually starting to get suspicious. These suspicions actually allow him to find out that Al-Mualim, the master of the Assassin Order, has been playing a two-sided game. He's been manipulating the assassins and the Templars themselves. He's been using Altair as a way to get rid of the competition. He wants to use the Apple of Eden, the relic that we got in the very beginning of the game, to brainwash people and basically take control of the land. Remake the world in his own image, essentially. Altair also changes during this time. His character grows. Instead of being a rash and immature person who just goes for the kill, he basically rediscovers himself throughout this journey, throughout all these assassinations that he got. His outlook on the world changes, he makes new friends and rekindles the friendships he ruined so long ago. These very same friends assist him in the final battle that's yet to come against Al-Mualim. When we return to Masya, everyone is already brainwashed. We can see them acting strange and talking very monotonously. They're attacking us for no reason. Confront Al-Mualim, and he tells us a story. He tells us why he did what he did. He takes control of our body, but Altair has a way to combat this. He manages to fight back. He kills all the various clones that Al-Mualim has made, and eventually kills him, taking control of the orb and ending the game. Now, with the game being finally over, and the locations of various artifacts around the globe being revealed, we are pulled out of the Animus. Our fate is sealed. It's time for us to be killed. But luckily we are saved. Abstergo decides that we are worth keeping, at least until the artifacts are secured. They walk away, we are left alive, and it's implied that in the second game, we will be continuing this very same story. And when we use our eagle vision, this time it works even in our real world. Desmond is able to see things that he wasn't able to see before. Various scribbles all over the floor and walls, almost as if they were etched in blood. They don't make much sense, but it ultimately implies that there were many others before us here. Who knows what they had to go through. We will probably find out in the second game, but for now, it's over. We are done. With the game being over, it's basically a perfect way to set up a sequel. We are left with more questions than answers. Many things being set up, a new adventure being on the horizon, many different artifacts to recover, and we even have a glimpse of what these artifacts are able to do. Control the minds of people, control their bodies, and there might be other tools that could do wondrous other things for us to find. Assassin's Creed 1 essentially laid the groundwork for an influential legacy, combining a rich historic narrative with innovative gameplay mechanics that became hallmarks of the series. Set in a fictionalized version of the past, it introduced core features like the hidden blade, climbing and parkour, and various assassination missions, all elements that defined the franchise and were expanded upon in every sequel that came after it. The game's unique approach to storytelling blended real historical figures and events with a sci-fi twist, adding mythical artifacts and ancient mysteries that brought history to life in a fresh and imaginative way. This combination of fantasy with real-world settings captivated players and influenced countless other games in the genre. Assassin's Creed 1 inspired a new level of world building, encouraging developers to create immersive, interactable worlds where history and fiction seamlessly merge. This legacy cemented Assassin's Creed as a cornerstone of modern gaming, with its impact still being visible in gaming mechanics and narratives today. This is why I believe Assassin's Creed 1 was so good. This is why I believe this game became such a legacy, and why people up to even today still play it. Over 20 years later, we're still playing it and we're still enjoying it. With what Ubisoft is doing these days, it's hard to say if we're ever gonna see another Assassin's Creed game that has such a huge impact on the gaming world in general. But I guess that's something to see for all of us in the future. But with that, I believe it's time to end the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope it didn't bore you. Feel free to leave your comments and ideas in the comment section below. A like is always appreciated, and if you feel I was worth your time, hit that subscribe button. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.